Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Jason Roach. I am the owner and editor-in-chief of Gold Dust Publishing. We are a queer press that focuses on giving queer and allied authors a voice. And we are here supporting our authors who are in our 2025 pre-order slash backer kit, which we are doing to raise funds for our projects that are coming up this year. Uh, And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my husband, Sean, who is going to lead us through this. So, Sean, Merry Christmas. Have fun.
All right. Well, welcome in everybody. We're really excited to get together and talk about our projects that are coming up, to kind of inform you guys about this backer kit and the mission, but more importantly, to let you get to know some of us. I think oftentimes we read books or we see people online and we don't know a whole lot about them. So we thought this would kind of be a fun way for you guys to get to know us and a little bit more about what we're working on. So I think what we'll do is I'm just going to go in the order of my screen. So no playing favorites here, but we're just going to go around. Each author is going to introduce themselves and tell everyone a little bit about themselves. And then after that, we will cycle back through everyone and we'll talk about our books. And then we'll open up for questions. So we will start with Dan, who is directly next to me on my screen. Hi, Dan.
Hello. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sean and Jason and everyone here. Really great to be here. I am Dan Desai Martin, he, him. I signed on with Gold Dust this past December. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in South Georgia and got turned on to reading fantasy novels at a pretty young age. I read everything from The Hobbit to the Dragonlance series to Wheel of Time, and really never lost my love kind of for that genre. Um, I went to college at Berry College in Rome, Georgia. If anyone knows Georgia, it's in the northwest corner of the state. I got a degree in religious studies and then started working in the world. I kept reading, branching out from fantasy, but never really leaving it. I worked on a variety of issues, international women's rights, and at places like Save the Children. I've also dabbled in journalism. I was a journalist for 3 years, and now I'm a communications consultant. All of the stuff I've done is mostly kind of in the political sphere. Never really thought my path would lead to writing a novel, yet here I am with all of you. Um, in addition to writing this book, I'm also actively involved in the Maryland Writers Association. I was an editor for a collection called Emerging Voices, Poetry and Prose by Maryland Teens, Volume 9, which is a collection of short stories, novel excerpts, and poems by kids in Maryland, aged 12 to 18. So and I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is right outside of DC. And so I am excited to be here and excited to be hanging out with so many other great people.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. All right, Arden, you're up.
Oh man. Okay, here we go. Hi everyone. Hello. Happy to be here. Thank you for putting on such an awesome event. I am recently signed to Gold Dust Publishing. Um, I guess well, hi, Arden Coots, they, them. There we go. I write primarily romantic suspense, but I also write romantasy and horror. And so I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. I'm grew up in rural Nebraska, more cows than people, not a lot going on. And so my escape was the local library. And I fell in love with books and reading and started writing at a pretty young age and was like Dan, very focused on fantasy and kind of disappearing into these wonderful worlds. Terry Brooks will always hold a special place in my heart. Um, and as I got older, went through school, I kind of drifted away from writing and then found my way back to it in uh, right before COVID happened and published my first book in 2022 and have kind of kept going from there. But I am super excited to be a part of Gold Dust Publishing and yeah, just stoked to be here. Thanks.
Sweet. Thanks, Arden. All right, Molly, you're on next.
Yay! Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for having me. My name is Molly Blazer. I met Goldust at Pride 2023 and signed with them in April 2024. So coming up on a year pretty soon. But I've been writing ever since I basically could draw because I used to have my dad. I would recite my dreams to my dad and he'd write them down and then I'd illustrate them. And that was my first book. Um, but then I got into short stories and have a couple of those published. But The Smoke Saga, which is going to be through Gold Dust, is my first novel. I've been working on it for 20 years, which is because when I was 12, my writing was a lot different. And I had to have a lot of life experiences and grow to really help the book be fleshed out. So I'm very excited to do this next chapter in the process. A little more about me outside of writing. I'm originally from Minnesota, though I was born in Silver Spring, Maryland. But I moved when I was like 1 or 2, so I don't remember it, but I thought that was a fun fact. But yes, lived in Minnesota. I don't like the cold though, so we moved to North Carolina in 2020, end of 2020. And I live on a farm and we have a whole zoo of animals. We have 18 right now. So I kind of spend a lot of my time with them.
Perfect. Thanks, Molly. All right, Zach, you're up.
Hey, I'm Zach. Um, I mainly write fantasy, but as Jason has found out recently, I do have a lot of different things that I do write. Main series, uh, Jason and told us picked up was my Trials event. It's a fantasy series, and I think it'll be June for the newest one, which is I'm Not to Be a Merchant Style. Um, Originally, I'm from New England, specifically Maine, New Hampshire. Currently, I am in North Dakota and have been here for about 4 years now. And uh, writing, I've been writing since I think I started to get in 2018 is when I started self-publishing my stuff. But I've always been a huge nerd, like fantasy, and been doing that lifestyle since I was a kid.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach. All right, Amelia, you are up.
Hey, um, well, I did not prepare anything. So, um, I'm Amelia Sides. My romance novels will be out under Grace Reed. Uh, I'm originally from Georgia. I live in South Carolina. I'm a self-published author. I have 4 books out now. Um, the fourth one will be coming out in April. I write fantasy, lit RPG, romance, science fiction, you name it. Um, I even write poetry and have some of that published. Um, let's see. I found out about Gold Dust from SagaCon last year, and that was where I got to meet Jason.
All right.
And have signed for a sci-fi romance series that will be coming out next year, year after next.
Sweet. Thank you. All right. So this is us. It occurred to me I didn't really introduce myself. I just started talking. But I'm Sean. Jason mentioned at the top of the conversation, we're married. So that is my relation to Gold Dust Publishing. Um, but yeah, so I work in the nonprofit sector in my local community, chairing a nonprofit called Inclusion Inc. We work with the local queer community. My first book is coming out this year. It's a campy mystery book, but we'll get into that a little later. Um, I'm also a graduate student studying sociology, so I'm really passionate about social issues. But in particular, my research interests are around queer culture and queer spaces. So that's a little about me, and we have a shit ton of animals. um, Always feel like that's important to talk about. All right, so what we'll do next then is we'll give everybody a chance now that everyone kind of knows each other and has a little background information on the authors that are here. Um, on the call. We'll talk a little bit about our books. So, just kind of a general synopsis. We'll start with the folks whose works are included in the backer kit, since that's kind of the purpose of the event today, is to build up some excitement around this backer kit. So, let me see. I have a list. Why don't we start with Zach?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, it is How Not to Be a Merchant's Daughter, which can be seen over Jason's left shoulder. There you go. Um, it's a, I don't know, ongoing series that is connected to two other novellas, and it follows a half-elf girl named Abigail, and she is in a pretty shitty situation with her family as she feels like she's trapped with that. And also that the whole thing progresses. She starts realize that she has some clairvoyant powers, and the whole thing is basically her dealing with life and trying to get out of it.
Very cool. All right. Okay, so it sounds good. One of the benefits of being married to the publisher is I get to hear all about you guys' books. As the process is ongoing, and there's not a single book that he has told me about that doesn't sound like it's going to be good. So I'm really excited. All right, so we actually have a little bit of a special message from one of our authors who could not make it. So Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute so that you can share that with everyone. You're muted.
Yeah, I figured that. Uh, just a moment to get my life together. We're going to do this. We want to do that.
Hey all, Michael here. I can't be there for the Zoom call. Life is very full at the moment. We're in the process of buying a different house and moving to it and getting a bunch of work done on it. And uh, I'm really sorry that I could not be there. But I still wanted to be a part of it, in part because I really love doing readings. So I don't know. I told Jason I can't be there, but I will record myself reading from a couple of different things. The first is going to be this. And if he shows you the second part, then you get to see the second part as well. But this is going to be the reading from Children of Solitude. That's the upcoming queer Appalachian cosmic horror novel I have about this guy named Reginald. He is a prickly queen, not the nicest person in the world, very much likes to keep a distance between himself and others. He has this horrible mother who is finally dead. And he has, at this point in the story, returned to the ancestral Appalachian homestead where she raised him, only to discover that A, there is a suburban cul-de-sac in what used to be his mother's front yard. She has parceled off the land. And B, her house is haunted, or possibly worse than haunted. And C, His favorite gay porn star now lives down the street. So he, on his very first day there, the local welcome wagon, a couple of neighbors, including Lewis, his favorite adult performer, stopped by to welcome him to the neighborhood and tell him about, signing up for Nextdoor and their internet plans and things like that. And Reginald is very annoyed by the thought that these neighbors just assume he is going to move back into the house, that from his perspective, he escaped, 20 years before, and just take up his old life as though the intervening decades did not happen. He really does not like that idea.
So, Jason, since you're already talking a little bit, do you want to go ahead and talk about queer horror?
Yes. So queer horror is actually it's called Queer Power, Escaping the Fright. And it is a new horror anthology that we are doing for our next charity book, which will go 75% of the profits will go to the Trevor Project. And then the other 25% will go to costs to continue printing the book. It will have 6 different novelettes in the horror-ish aspect. We do have a little campy Scooby-Doo mystery type in there as well. But it features authors, myself, Michael G. Williams also has another story in it. John Hartness, Rachel Bloom, J.D. Blackrose, and Nicole Givens Kurtz are all featured in it. They are fantastic authors, people. I love them all so much and can't thank them enough for being a part of this project. So we are hoping to release this project at the end of May for Con Carolina. So fingers crossed for that. If any of you guys are going to be there or be available for that, fingers crossed that we can make all our deadlines and get that finished. My personal story is called 7734, which I don't know if you guys were nerdy like me, but if you type that into a calculator when you were in the 90s and you turn it upside down, it spells hell. So it is about a group of friends slash partner couples traveling to Switzerland for the vacation of a lifetime. And let's just say it's not the vacation of a lifetime, but it may be for some of them. Yeah, so that's that. And again, 75% of the profits for that book are going to the Trevor Project.
Sweet. Thanks, Jason. All right. So I guess I'll talk next. So my first book, Mr. Tingle's Mysteries, The Curious Case of the Bodiless Head, will be out officially next Friday. This book is a campy mystery that is led by a cast of queer characters. It's set in a small southern town. I name it my hometown, but it is a caricature of my hometown, but it's set in a small country town. A head is discovered in an unlikely place, and they have to call in reinforcements because they're just a tiny little town, and there's only one detective and a handful of police officers, and they don't have the resources to solve this case. So they call in the flamboyant Mr. Leroy H. Tingles IV, and chaos ensues. I am excited. This book is heavily inspired by all of those really campy detective shows from the 90s, like Diagnosis Murder and Father Dowling, and even back to the 80s, Murder, She Wrote. But there are also these components, I think, or these influences from Sherlock Holmes and Agatha Christie and Scream and Criminal Minds. That, all all of these things kind of wrapped up into this campy story. So I am very excited about it. My mission with writing, at least fiction anyway, is to write queer characters that are not centered on oppression. There's so much of that work out there in the first place, and it has its place and it's valuable. But I wanted to offer something where all of my queer characters are heroes and they survive and they're kicking ass instead of getting their asses kicked. So that is my commitment to my readers who are reading any of my work, is that my queer characters are always going to be the ass kickers. So that is a little bit of what you can expect from Mr. Tingle's Mysteries. It is the first in what is intended to be a series. We're going to talk about our upcoming stuff in a little while, so I'll clue you in on what's happening with Mr. Tingle's in a little while. But okay, so that's me, and we will round out the backer kit authors that are on this call before we move on to everyone else with Molly. Molly, have at it, my friend.
Okay, so my book in the backerkit campaign is book one of the Snook Saga. It wasn't originally one book, and then we split it in half. So book one is now for pre-order, and book two will be coming out next. We don't have a date yet, obviously. So the Snook Saga is set in the world of Lilygrave, another realm of magic, kind of like Narnia. And it's the story of Vic, a young boy, and one of his very first spells that he ever uses is to find a mental companion, and it ends up linking him mentally to Snook, a Great Dane, which is unheard of because animals don't necessarily have that capacity. So that gives you a little hint, I guess, about what might happen. And they end up going on a quest, and along the way, they meet Via and Aphis, who have their own backstories, and they all weave together, and they become a found family. And they're characters who are just really important to me. They, like I said, I've worked on for 20 years, so they've gotten me through a lot of my life. And I'm just really excited to share it with all of you guys.
Very cool. Thanks, Molly. All right, so that is all of us who were included in the backer kit campaign. As you guys can see, and I know at least one of you has already pledged. Here's looking at Dino, but that gives you an idea of some of the projects that are coming to you guys through this backer kit. So there's some really great stories, and several of these works are the first in series, which is cool. So you can latch on to some of these things and just follow us for the ride on those stories. All right, so we don't want to exclude the other authors that are here though, because the other folks that are here have projects that are in the pipeline with Gold Dust. And the vision for this backer kit campaign is that we would be able to not only raise enough money to support the projects for 2025, but so that we can continue to raise money and maybe get ahead of schedule a little bit and get some of these projects from these authors that are going to talk in just a moment out to you sooner than expected, right? So we will start talking to some of you guys. Does anybody want to go first and talk about your book, or do you guys want me to pick?
Let's let you lead the show, man. You're doing
All
great.
right. All right. Trying to give you guys a little autonomy, you know. All right. Arden, go for it.
All right. I have two projects with that are hopefully, I think we're aiming for 2026 for both of them. The first one is a queer post-apocalyptic horror story called, well, the working title, I guess, is Echoes of Us. But it's really about what it means to be human in the face of the apocalypse. And as our survivors like navigate this broken world, um, you know, it kind of explores the questions of who we are without society, what do we become when survival becomes everything, and yeah, it's I've been working on it for 15 years. It's kind of a a exploration of mental health and loss and grief, and I'm really excited to share that one with everyone when it comes out. And the second book that I'm working on is um, it's a polyamorous romantasy that is full of rebellion, queer love, found family, and a lot of magical tension. So it's just beginning to work on that one, and I'm equally as excited for it. And it's my first fantasy book, so it should be quite the adventure.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Arden. You've talked about your post-apocalyptic book a couple of times, and I'm always torn on post-apocalyptic things because um, they give me really bad anxiety, but also there's some really incredible post-apocalyptic stories out there. So yeah.
Yeah, this one's a little kind of a little World War Z-ish. So it's not zombie focused, but kind of the way it's written, I would say is a little similar.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I did good to make it through The Walking Dead. Um, that was, especially these days, just
Mm,
unsettling.
yeah.
Okay, so let's hand it over to Dan. Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my debut novel, which is tentatively titled In the Shadow of the Sanctum, is a fantasy novel scheduled to come out hopefully next year with Gold Dust, maybe this year if things go really well. Um, in a realm where the 12 holy sanctums maintain absolute control through violence and manipulation, Ella, our protagonist, yearns for safety after fleeing a particularly sadistic high priest. Her only problem? The kindly farmers who took her in after she fled revealed themselves to be members of a rebel group seeking to free the realm from the Sanctum's iron grip. And they aren't just any rebels, they are leaders of the rebellion. On the other side of the realm, Durio, a devout follower of the one god, is shocked to learn his parents are part of the rebellion. Ever the dutiful son, he obeys his father's request to accompany other rebels on a journey to see if their prophecy will be fulfilled in his lifetime. Along the way, he meets colorful companions who challenge everything he thought he knew about the one god, the serpent, holy priest, and the sanctum. Both Ella and Durio are ripped from everything they know and find themselves surrounded by a zealous group of rebels. Each of them must come to terms, each of them must come to terms with their new surroundings and learn how to determine their own futures rather than have others make decisions for them. Durio struggles with his faith he never questioned, as well as a new knowledge about the darker side of the sanctum. Ella, meanwhile, struggles to overcome anxiety from her past, distrust of those around her, and a growing anger directed at the sanctum. This is kind of a mix between A Handmaid's Tale and Saba Tahir's Ember in the Ashes series, if anyone has read those. I pulled a lot from my background in religious studies, kind of wanting to delve into a society where the overarching power is a religious structure that is somewhat corrupt. So that's what we have.
Dan, that also sounds like it would give me a lot of anxiety, but also sounds really good.
Hopefully, it also gives you hope. It might give you some anxiety, but also it's a hopefully a fun adventure that everyone will enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. We do love a good story where the good guys win and win hard. So hopefully that's the end of the book. I don't know, and don't tell us, but
Ella's a total badass, I will say that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And yeah, it's a fun story, and I think that people hopefully will be happy and hopefully will want to read more.
Absolutely. All right. So, Amelia, I did this to you twice, huh? We'll let Amelia talk next.
Okay. So I have a LGBTQ sci-fi romance series that Jason has picked up. Uh, it is eventually going to be 5 books. I currently have 2 written and then 2 in the works. Uh, the first book, Triad, is a male romance. It's a retired Marine, an exiled corporate hair, and an alien prince are all trying to get home. They all wind up stuck on a wrecked space station waiting for the interstellar gate to be repaired in the middle of a civil war. And they have to figure out how to get the station repaired enough so that they can leave. And it's basically, we're all stuck in one room. Things happen. Um, book 2 is a down on his luck retired Marine is stuck in a backwater system looking for work. In trying to find a job, he winds up becoming a bodyguard for the local royal family. Falling in love with the prince he was set to guard was not exactly part of the job plan. Uh, all of these books are set with the main character being part of a mercenary group who was formerly an army squad called Fox and Dagger. And so they all know each other, all the books interconnect, and you have different secrets about the members you hear about in other books revealed in each book. So they all cross back and forth. And it is a 5-book series. I started writing this because you don't see a lot of romance in science fiction. And that is annoying to me. So I wrote what I wanted to read.
I love that. Thanks, Amelia. There's this great quote by Toni Morrison, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but and for those of you who don't know Toni Morrison, I'd encourage you to Google that name. She was an incredible author. But there's this really great quote where she says, "If there's a book you want to read but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it." So I love that. I think that has motivated a lot of us to write. Similarly, I had been frustrated by not seeing the kinds of characters I wanted to see in queer mysteries. So that informed a lot of the characters that I created for Mr. Tingles. Um, all right, fantastic. Well, I think so. The few folks that are on here with us, you've heard about some really incredible stories that are coming your way. Gold Dust Publishing has made a commitment to amplify queer voices through their publications. So you've heard about several of those works that are going to be coming out in 2025 and 2026. And if we're lucky, we'll make enough to get ahead of schedule. Because the more money we raise, the more works that we can get out, and the more capacity we have to take on new things, right? So that's one of the purposes of what we're doing here today. But we do want to open it up to the folks who are here to see if you have any questions for any particular author, or if you just have a general question that you want responses from several authors. Whatever the case, we want to give the floor over to you. So does anybody have any questions or anything they want us to talk about?
Authors, you can ask other authors questions as well, so have at it.
Sean, I want to know how you came up with the name Mr. Tingles because I think it's fantastic.
Unfortunately, Dan, I do not have an impressive story for this. It was just there one day. Um, and I had a name for him before I had a story. I was like, a detective named Mr. Tingle sounds fun and campy. And then the story followed. But thank you. I do love his name. I think it's great, and I think it before you even read about him and know anything about this character, I think it already gives you the impression that he's campy. And that's kind of what I wanted to go for, like this really ridiculous name, and he's equally ridiculous, but also really kind of smart and, good at what he does.
It immediately makes me think about Chuck Tingle.
Unfamiliar.
Oh, great parody.
Oh yeah, all right.
Hilarious.
Now I have something to go look up. Who else? We can talk about anything. So if I need to, I can just prompt and we can talk. So Dan asked me a really good question about my lead character. So does anybody want to share any insight into your own lead characters? How did you conceptualize those characters? Um, yeah, anybody.
I mean,
I
oh,
I'll share a funny little story, I guess.
Go for it.
I already had the name Vic picked out. I don't even know where it came from. And I knew I wanted to have a female character. And one day, my mom got a GPS system for the car, and the name on the top was Via, and I was like, Vic and Via, that's perfect. So she's named after a GPS system, which is just really funny. The GPS system no longer exists. My mom got a new car when I visited in January, and I said, "Where's Via?" And she said, "I don't know, probably donated." And I said, "She'll never know that she inspired a book character coming out soon." So that's my funny little story.
I kind of love that, really. Um, I think anyone who's written a story, right? Even my just one. It's funny to think about the things that people don't realize, like the behind the scenes stuff or what inspired a certain thing. And sometimes it's just really silly, and maybe only makes sense to us and a couple of other people, but those are little nuggets that we'll always have. So, all right, I'll pose this question then. And you guys are going to make me just pick people to answer these questions, which is unfortunate for you all. But what, Zach, what was the hardest thing about writing your book? Biggest challenge that you encountered?
Finishing it.
Mm.
I sat on mine for quite a few years before I actually finished this story. So that was my biggest struggle, 'cause I kind of just hit a dead end and didn't know how to progress. And then I just banged my head against the wall for a while, and it eventually came to me, and I was able to get the flow back and finish it up.
Nice, very nice. Um, let's see. Oh, we have a question in the chat. Let's see. Interesting books all around. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you. What surprised you most about the process of writing a book? That's a great question. Um, who wants to tackle that first? What surprised you most about the process of writing a book?
Um, for me, it was how off the rails it goes from your original plan.
Listen, that is so valid. Jason has had the great benefit or not or of living in the same household with me while writing Tingles, and that story changed 16 times, and which is both beautiful and frustrating because when you think you've got it figured out, your way that is informed by whatever you think is going to happen, and then suddenly you get a better idea, or you write something in a way that makes you think, huh, that could actually be some foreshadowing for this other thing that could possibly happen. And I think that was the most surprising thing for me too, is how off the rails it can get. You wouldn't expect when it's something you are conceptualizing that it would do something like this, but yeah. Who else? That's a really good question.
I mean, I'll just jump in kind of along those same lines. My protagonist, when I started writing, is no longer the protagonist. They are now a secondary character, and I thought the story would be told from their point of view. And after, I don't know, 30,000 words or so, I realized the story was not about him, but was more about Ella and her journey. And so just having that switch of kind of the story was still going along the same way, but just having it, okay, well, my point of view character is going to shift now, kind of midway through, and then, you know, adjusting and working on that, I think was interesting. And then I'll also echo what other people said, just as these characters come and you're writing them, they do surprise you, which I think if you haven't written a novel, I think people are like, what do you mean? How can you possibly be surprised by these characters? But once you create them and you put them in situations with other characters, you just start writing. You're like, oh yeah, obviously they would do this, which you hadn't thought about before. But then ends up making the story, I think, more fun as a writer, and hopefully, we'll see, but hopefully more fun for readers as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that's a testament to when you're writing these characters and it starts taking a direction you weren't planning. I think that that's an indication that your characters have developed enough that you're writing now from their perspective and not your own perspective. So, another answer to this question is that was very surprising to me too, is as you develop your characters, you kind of lose control of them. Um, which is great. It's fun, right? But I mean, show of hands, how many have written a scene or written a statement from a character and you think he wouldn't say that or they wouldn't say that, you know, a million times over. Um, all right, I want to keep digging into this because I'm loving the answers to this. So Arden or Amelia or Molly, surprised you the most about the process of writing a book?
For me, especially with Echoes of Us, I think the thing that surprised me the most was how the process helped me work through my own grief. I started writing Echoes after the death of my father, like 15, 16 years ago. And at the time, didn't realize that that was the catalyst. That was the thing that had made me start writing the story. And then as I got older and continued to work on it, I was like, oh, okay, this is me working through my own stuff in story form. And that surprised me. I was not, didn't think that that was it. So that was very surprising in my own kind of writing journey.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also a really good point. Is the personal benefits, I think, of writing. Um, I mentioned earlier, I'm in grad school, so a lot of my writing is academic, but I still find even in that when I'm writing about, certain issues or whatever, there is something liberating about it, but there was something about writing Tingles that felt different. It was an artistic expression and, a way to deal with some of the things that I had experienced in my life outside of therapy or writing in them in a rigid academic way. So yeah, another great point. Amelia, how about you?
Um, I can say that writing is definitely therapy for me because I do work through my issues when I'm writing. Um, you definitely can see some bad relationships coming out in a couple of these books. But I don't know, the one that surprised me writing this series so far, honestly, was Triad, the first book. I originally started writing it meaning it just to be a basic sci-fi romance, and somehow I hit every possible romance trope you can think of, and I did not intend to do that. Um, it's like exiled prince. We go back to the home world. I mean, everything you can think of, it's in there, and it was not intentional.
I love that. Meanwhile, I'm like, what mystery novel tropes can I hit? Like I want it to be so campy that they're all included. All right. Well, Molly, you're the only one who hasn't answered this question, so I feel like we have to have you speak on this, and then we can move on.
Okay, I'm gonna sound a little crazy, but I think what surprised me the most is the random times my characters will tell me things. I'll be in the shower, for example, and one of them will butt in and be like, "Did I tell you this?" And I'm like, "No, that's helpful, but like timing. I'm not at my computer right now, you know." So it's just, or I'm walking a dog. I'm a dog walker. That's my day job. And one of them will just butt in. I'm like, I'm trying to focus on walking this dog and I don't need you in my head right now, but I'm glad that you're telling me something. So just not helpful sometimes, at the same time helpful, I guess.
Yeah, totally relatable. I have a note in my phone, and it's all dedicated to Tingle stuff, and it's so disjointed. And when I read through it, sometimes it doesn't make any sense, because to your point, Molly, it just comes at random times. I'm sitting at work at my computer, and then all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, and I go and type it in, zero context whatsoever. So yeah, timing would be would be real nice. All right. Okay, so what we can do now, unless anybody has any other questions, and thank you for that great question in the comments. Really sparked some good conversation, I think. But unless anybody has anything else, we can kind of talk about our upcoming projects. So I'll just pause for a moment. Okay. All right, no problem. So let's talk about our upcoming work. We've talked about our things coming out in 25 and 26. And we want to know what you're working on next. So I'm just going to go in order of my screen again because that makes my life easier. Dan, you're up.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. In addition to writing a sequel to In the Shadow of the Sanctum, which is in process and going slowly, I'm also experimenting with co-writing a book with a longtime friend and longtime writing partner. And we describe it as a action adventure fantasy comedy. We had the idea of mashing up something like Fast and the Furious, but on dragons, with kind of the humor of Airplane slash Monty Python. So it is silly, it is ridiculous, it is in no way serious. It is just fun. As we're writing it, my goal is either to make myself chuckle or make my writing partner laugh, and that's kind of the goal. So it is fun, it's silly, it's light, and that's what's been keeping me entertained and working. So yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Very nice. Very nice. I don't know what I did. I've got all these reactions happening on my little box, and I didn't mean to do that. All right, Arden, you're up. What are you working on?
Right. Well, I am very focused right now on Echoes of Us and my romantasy. But I'm kind of just working on some short stories to get, I guess, in the mindset of writing my first romantasy. So I'm just doing some little fantasy and romantasy short stories right now. But yeah, my focus is really on the two projects I've got coming up with Gold Dust. So hoping to get those moving.
Very cool. Yes, we're excited. Um, okay, I'm going to circle back to what Dan was talking about and the ridiculousness of this upcoming project. I am excited. I love anything ridiculous and campy. But anyway, all right, Molly, you're up.
All right. Well, obviously, like I said, the Snook Saga book one is just the first half of what was one full novel. So I'm working on the second half after this. It's already written. I just need to kind of take what I've added to the first book and transfer it over and rework it a little bit. But then there is going to be a third book after that. I don't know if that will end up getting split. I am already writing it in kind of like a book one, book two format. I just envisioned it as one book, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And then there are other books down the road in the same series. So it's going to be a process. And I have so many other little stories in this world build that I would love to see come to life. I just don't know what medium, whether, short stories, novels, even like animations, I'm not sure. So a lot of things brewing, we could say.
Very cool. All right, Zach, what you working on?
Too many things. Um, Jason knows I've thrown quite a few of my ideas out at him. For specifically Gold Dust, I'm working on another section or part to the Trials of Amford before you guys end up absorbing the first two books of the series, which will be following another side character that comes in quite frequently in the series. Um, Other than that, I have a little project of writing kind of like sci-fi short stories, sci-fi horror short stories that whenever I get an idea, my phone's just full of notes and ideas on that. And then my big project that I'm trying to get through is I'm gonna jump into the lit RPG gamelit kind of story.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, it sounds like many of us have a lot of things that are happening, which is very cool. Amelia, what are you working on? I know you're this 5 book series.
Yeah. I'm doing the final 3 books of Fox and Dagger. I have a 4 book series I'm fleshing out that is a workplace romance between a handler and an assassin. Um, Slowly figuring that one out. I'm still kind of outlining everything at this point for that one, but it's going to be a multi-book series. I also have a reverse harem called Sword and Chalice that I'm halfway through writing. I'm in the middle of writing the sequel to my alternate history book, which is called An Unkindness of Magic. The sequel is going to be An Incident at Bath. Um, I have another reverse harem called The King's Harem that I am outlining at the moment. And I have a fantasy detective story that I have not finished outlining yet. So lots of projects.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I like to bounce projects, is a thing.
Very cool. I mean, so many of these things that you guys have talked about today, both coming up in 25 and 26 and your future projects sounds so interesting. Um, all right, so I guess I'll round this out. I've got the second Tingles book probably 80% finished, tentatively titled Mr. Tingle's Mysteries, Webs of Disguise. Um, and I have also started, I use that word loosely because there's not much written, but I am working on a gay Western story. I don't have really the plot fleshed out yet, but anyway, it'll incorporate a little bit of drag history. And yeah, anyway, don't think Brokeback Mountain though. That's not the direction we're going. Uh, and then Yeah, I won't even say that. Those are the two things right now. Yeah. All right. So I will just open up one last time right at 4 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask any of us? Anything they want us to expand on? Anything like that before I hand it back over to Jason so that he can walk us through the backer kit.
So, Jason, what are you working on?
Well, I was about to hand it over to you anyway. It was
So,
intentional. Over to you, Jason.
so aside from working on all of y'all's stuff, personally, I am working on, or we're just finishing up the story for Queer Power. It is with the editor right now, and then we'll get that back, get that process rolling. Um, I have another paranormal thriller that I am hoping to finish and complete. I have about 8,000 words in it right now. Um, Called The Blood Curse of the Blood Roses is tentatively what it is right now. Um, so I'm hoping to get that one finished this year. And then pick up with the book 2 of the Vampire Crusades. So yay, more smutty romance. Um, but yeah, so that's where we're at with my stuff, and then all of y'all's stuff. And y'all don't give me time to breathe, but I love you all for it. All right, so let's take a roll down the backer kit. We're going to share the screen again. We're going to hope this cooperates. At least we don't need sound for this.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's fine because we don't have to rely on sound.
And let's get rid of that so we can see what's going on. All right, so this is the backer kit. We're going to start on the story page, and it walks you through each of the books that you've heard about tonight or today. There are a few that aren't there. Oh, look, we see somebody familiar, Mr. Dino there. And Ray Nichols' book, which is coming out in May. It's called Trial by Fire, and it's book 2 of the Eric Kent investigation series. So this one is a phenomenal book. There's lots of fire and lots of ghosts. This is our Queer Fright that we were talking about, how not to be a merchant's daughter. Dakota was not able to be with us today, but his psychological horror called Tainted Glass, which we are working on, it will be out in the fall. And it's kind of like if Heartstopper was a psychological horror. But yeah, that one's good. Then we have The Lies I Tell My Friends, which is from Tally Johnson. I don't know if you guys know Tally, but Tally is an amazing person. He is an award-winning storyteller, and he tells ghost stories. So this is a collection of all the stories that he's told over the years that will be coming together. And then, of course, we have Snook. We're so excited about that one. And cover coming soon, yes. We are using the backer kit funds to help fund some of our covers. So please help us out there. But then you can go through and it tells you, some of the price points on the pledge levels of the things we have available. And some services that we're also offering. We have great swag packages as well that you can get into. And our stretch goals, we are currently a little over $200 away from meeting our $3,000 stretch goal, and you get a special Dino Santa pin that will be available as an add-on. So we'll get a little sneak peek at that here in just a moment. He's so adorable. I just love him. It kind of gives you a little back history on why to back us, what we do, what our missions are, and what your pledge goes towards. So it's all of these things. Everything that we make, we put right back into the company. So I personally do not receive a paycheck from this. It goes right back in. You do have the options to pay over time if you would like, and then discusses shipping and timelines and things like that. So let's get to the part of the actual pledge. So you click on the pledge levels here, and it gives you all these options that you can choose from. And if you decide that there's one that you want to go with, you just click back it, and it will take you to the next step. But you can get one book, 2 books, 3 books, ebooks, any paperback you want that's in the 2025 release, any hardback. You can choose the grand swag package, and then you'll get an option to choose which one you want at the end of the campaign, or our mini swag packages. And then we are offering some services as well for beta reading, copy editing, line editing, both together, and then a full developmental edit. So those are the Gold Dust services that are offered. Once you select your pledge, it'll take you to the add-on section where you can add on these wonderful Funko items designed by or inspired by our book's characters that we have. So we have a Mr. Tingles, we have a Dino from Trial by Fire. We have Reginald from Children of Solitude, which was Michael's book. And then we have and I'm probably going to say her name wrong. I'm so sorry, but Aviel. And Zach, correct me if I'm completely wrong on that. We have those as the single, and then we have a double pack of Eric Kent and Tanner Cole from Trial by Fire. You can choose stickers. We have 3D printed bookmarks with our wonderful Jesus Praying for Smut, which is designed by Ben Marabelli, who is a local artist down in the Charlotte area. And then here's 2 of our options that we've already unlocked by reaching our stretch goals. We have a Mr. Tingles acrylic pen and a Children of Solitude acrylic pen book cover. You can also add on t-shirts. Then we have a little separate Gold Dust t-shirt there if you want to do that. And then we get back into the books. So you can add on any hardback, paperback, ebook, anything like that. And all of these do include our back catalog as well. So you can get those along with the 2025 books. And then we had some pink tarot cards, but they are no longer available. So they were limited in supply. But you can add on as many add-ons as you would like. And then at the end of the process, when the campaign ends, I think it's mid-April, a survey will be sent out to you so that you can select which items you wish to purchase based off your pledge and your add-ons. So all of these have choices, and it'll be a survey for you to fill out. So that is our backer kit. We are currently at 2788. Oh, we were going to take a look at Mr. Dino. If we can go here and get to him. Oh no, where's Mr. Dino? Here he is. So this is our little Dino book Santa pen. And he will be unlocked when we reach 3,000 for people to come and purchase. He will be $5 like the rest of them. And once we get past the 3,000 mark, we'll be coming up with some more stretch goals to reach. And that will be our backer kit overview. So thank you very much for, what are we doing? Where's my thing? Sorry, y'all didn't need to see that. Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming and watching and listening, asking questions, being interactive. Again, thank you to all the authors. You guys are great. I can't thank you enough for the hard work that you guys are putting in with this and with your own books and everything else. So if we don't have anything else, I think we're going to go ahead and dip out. So thank you all for everything. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to watch. And we will. Mr. Sean has a question.
Not a question. I just wanted to say if nobody saw, Dan put the link for the backer kit in the comments. So
Oh yes, he did.
if anybody wanted to access it through the comments, you can do that there. I just wanted to say that before we ended.
Okay. And authors, if you can hang on for just a moment before we close out, and I will review something with you guys. But anyway, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much. Have a great one.